Hi, I'm Rich Brown, Senior Editor for CNET. Today we're going to take a look at the MakerBot Replicator 3D printer. So this is the first 3D printer we've reviewed here at CNET. Chances are, if you've heard of 3D printing, you've also heard of MakerBot. MakerBot has been on the forefront of the sort of consumer surge that 3D printing is enjoying lately. Now, it's not to say these printers are necessarily cheap or that they're overly user-friendly. That said, they're finally in the realm of affordability for the average consumer. So the Replicator is probably one of the more expensive consumer-oriented 3D printers. The reason is because it has two different inputs here for the plastic that you use to actually print objects. That makes it unique. There's no other printer in this price range that currently has that ability. Now, speaking of price, for that dual extrusion capability, the Replicator costs $19.99. So it's certainly not cheap, but that's not necessarily out of the realm of what we expect for new technology. So the way 3D printing works is you start with a 3D design file. You can either design that yourself in something like Google SketchUp, or you can scan an object, and there's a couple different ways you can do that. Most of them are pretty DIY at this point, though. Finally, you can go and download plans from other sources. MakerBot in particular owns a site called Thingiverse that hosts over 15,000 plans that are all freely available for you to download and print out objects from them on this printer. So once you have the plan and you've loaded in the software, it tells the printer to print out plastic in a series of layers, building gradually up until you get a finished solid object. So just to show you what the plastic looks like, here in the back we've got white and black. Both of these are included with the MakerBot. Each of these is about 2 pounds of plastic. It runs up here through this plastic tube and into the extruder head we saw in the front. So what's great about the Replicator in particular is that it can print with two different colors. Now it can either do that at the same time, making one object comprised of two different colors, or it can print, say, one object in white, one object in black, or it can do those at the same time depending on the file and the layout and the various software settings you have. Now this plastic here is called ABS. It stands for a long chemical name I'll spare you from right now. Now the printer comes with black and white, and you can actually buy all kinds of different colors and a couple different materials from MakerBot and various other sources online. A spool of this stuff costs about 50 bucks. So once you have your design and the plastic is loaded up, this extruded head moves here along the x-axis as well as the z-axis, and then this build plate moves up and down for the y-axis. So it's actually a pretty simple mechanical process the way this all works out, although as we found, printing with one of these things and expecting to get exactly what you see in the design is a little bit tricky. Now the build plate also warms up, and it's important that it stays at a certain temperature in order to keep the object in place as it's printing. There's definitely work involved in order to get a print exactly how you want it, and you probably have to spend a little bit of time, especially if you want to print something that's complicated. So there are other 3D printer makers out there aside from MakerBot, and there are also some DIY kits you can make to build a 3D printer yourself. From what we've seen, though, MakerBot seems to be the most polished product on the market, at least right now. Now, part of that polish comes from sort of the technical advantage you get from having two different colors, but also its interface is pretty great. So over here, there's an LED screen and a control panel, and there's actually even an SD card input. So that lets you change settings on the printer and actually print from the printer without using a computer. Now, no other 3D printer on the market yet has those features, at least that we've seen, although we're pretty sure that we'll see that before the end of the year from others. What I would not recommend is buying a 3D printer if you don't want to put the time in to get your object to look right, and that can take a lot of work. For now, though, this appears to be the most capable 3D printer out there for under $2,000. So I'm Rich Brown, this is the MakerBot Replicator.